An attack helicopter which crashed in a field after being hit by Ukrainian air defense systems. Big defining image number 3, Russia wreaks havoc in the northern city of Sumy a day after a ceasefire allowed civilians to get out of the city. Horrifying footage shows the extent of destruction in the Ukrainian city after a night of violent Russian shelling that is said to have indiscriminately targeted residential buildings. You can see the bodies of women and children lying all over the area. This suburb of Sumy continues to be one of the worst hit. Meanwhile, image number 4, defining image number 4, on day 14, the aftermath footage of Kyiv destruction on the outskirts captured by a drone. Continuous heavy shelling of satellite towns and suburbs has destroyed part of the larger Kyiv area on the outskirts. You can see destroyed and shelled buildings, damaged cars, some bodies lying around. Life in these outlying neighborhoods of Kyiv has come to a standstill. Defining image number 5 on day 14, this is what the evacuation of one of the largest suburbs of Kyiv, Irpin, looks like from a drone. You can see a sea of people on foot under a destroyed bridge trying to cross the river and get out of their native town. Artillery and airstrikes, some of it captured on India Today's cameras while we reported live, have caused heavy damage in and around the city. Defining image number 6, this appalling footage is from Kharkiv, city in the north, 40 kilometers from the Russian border. A city that was once buzzing with people wears a deserted look now. Buildings have been destroyed in heavy shelling, cars have been damaged, trees have been uprooted and burned. This is what was once a prosperous neighborhood. Defining image number 7 on day 14, Russia continues its onslaught in at least 8 cities. Russian troops have destroyed a military dormitory in the Zhytomyr region west of Kyiv. This image shows the shelled building. People still trying to ascertain the extent of the damage and number of casualties. This was a military dormitory. Footage shows Ukrainian groups pulling a Russian tank by a tractor amidst snowfall. You can see a man on the top of the tank and another one driving the tractor. The group is taking the tank apparently to a safe zone. Looks like a joyride, but it's anything but. This is also from day 14. Big defining image number 9 on day 14 as Russia continues to attack cities of Ukraine. 150 orphan children, mostly babies and toddlers from Lviv, arrived at the Przemysl train station in Poland. Volunteers and police officers are seen giving soft toys to these children as they're carried from the station and loaded onto buses to an uncertain future in foster care. Defining image number 10 on day 14, Russian anti-war protesters face a police crackdown. In these new images from yesterday on your screen, you can see demonstrators being arrested during an anti-war protest in the city of St. Petersburg. The man was hit several times by Russian police while being arrested and then taken into a police truck. Defining image number 11 on day 14 as Ukraine fiercely continues to battle Russian forces. This image shows Ukrainian servicemen inspecting a charred Russian tank in the Sumy city of northern Ukraine. This was the city from which several hundred Indian students were evacuated yesterday in the final stretch of Operation Ganga. It's been one of the most shelled cities in Ukraine. Defining image number 12 on day 14. In the face of possible Russian offensives in their cities, members of the territorial defense units on guard barricade the National Opera House in Ukraine's historic city of Odessa with sandbags and anti-tank hedgehogs. A city known for its culture, worldwide, its opera as well, is now a city under siege both from land and from sea. Can you believe it? It's already been 2 weeks since this invasion began. As the hostilities escalate on day 14, a new Western stunt over fighter jets to the war-torn country of Ukraine has just played out in front of the world. The United States has rejected Poland's offer of sending its MiG-29 fighter jets to Ukraine via a NATO airbase in Germany. This is being seen as Poland trying to be seen to be doing something, but not really doing anything at all. Germany has not commented just yet. Poland originally offered to send its MiG-29 fighters to the Ramstein airbase in Germany that's used as a NATO base, with American fighters also present there. Poland said it is up to the US now to send those jets to Ukraine. The US, however, has rejected the offer, calling it untenable. The US claims that Poland's offer to send MiG-29 jets to them so that it can be passed to Ukraine will raise concerns for the NATO alliance. This is the second apparent betrayal to Ukraine after the original NATO reluctance on imposing a no-fly zone over the country. Remember, NATO has repeatedly rejected Ukrainian requests to make its skies a no-fly zone so that it can stop being consistently struck from the air by the Russian Air Force. Now let's tell you why this entire offer from Poland is merely symbolic and doesn't really mean anything on the ground. Because remember, the Ukrainians, including President Zelensky, have said that we need a no-fly zone, or plan B is we need fighter aircraft that our pilots can fly, if not yours, and therefore please give them to us as quickly as possible. Poland has said that we'll give you these fighters and we will send them to Germany. We won't send them to Poland, but we will send them to Germany, to the Ramstein airbase. It says it's up to, they've put it in the US hands. They've said, we'll send these jets there. It's up to the US to send the jets to Ukraine. So there's that caveat also. The US says the jet offer is untenable. You're sending them to us and we'll have to send them, so one of the NATO countries will be seen as indulging in an act of war against Russia. The US is unwilling to get drawn into this war. President Biden has already made that very clear. But the US wants these NATO countries, ki aap bhej do bhaiya, you send your jets to Ukraine and help them out, but we will not play a part in it. This is being seen, the reason why we're saying this is shambolic is because this is the second big betrayal after NATO has said that we will not accede to this request from NATO, saying please impose a no-fly zone over Ukraine. Now the Western jet stunt this is how it's playing out in Europe. That is Warsaw. That is the capital of Poland. That's the country in which all these MiG-29 fighters are. The reason why MiG-29 fighters are important is because Ukraine also flies MiG-29 fighters. So it's being seen as a commonality, a common platform that their pilots can fly with very little, conversion training. They want to send it from Warsaw to Ramstein, which is in Germany. Germany doesn't have a border with Ukraine. Poland does. In Ramstein, the plan, the sort of skeletal plan is Ukrainian pilots can go there, train on those aircraft, and they'll fly those aircraft to Ukraine, because Germany certainly doesn't want to have any part of it. The Pentagon says we cannot send Polish jets to Ukraine. We will not do that from Ramstein because that is something that impacts the entire NATO alliance. So it's a bit of a mess. You've got the West looking actually quite silly right now because there's already a sense of betrayal in Ukraine right now. Now they're playing Chinese checkers with their jets as part of the NATO alliance, but not actually substantively sending any forces into Ukraine. It is understandable why they don't want to do that, but these little moves between Poland and Germany and NATO and the US just shows that there is no plan in place, and that big request from NATO for air power is probably not actually going to happen. Let's go across to India today. It's Geeta Mohan, who's live with me from Kyiv. She's been reporting from amidst shelling on the outskirts of Kyiv, but she's also plugged into all of the the international movements between all these countries. It would be funny if it wasn't such a serious issue, Geeta, this Polish offer of MiG-29 fighter jets, saying, we don't want to send them directly because that's going to anger Russia and get their sights on Poland. We will send them to this NATO airbase in Germany. NATO already doesn't want to do any of this stuff. The US has categorically said, "Hum nahi bhejenge kisi ko." So what is the point of all this? This looks like Poland, wanting to be seen to be doing something, but not doing anything at all.
Well, Shiv, your map says